Hello everyone, welcome back to Evoverse. This time Evoverse will recap the movie from 2015 titled The Sand. The movie tells the story of a group of teenagers who find a mysterious egg on the beach, and it hatches on the next day and turns into a terrifying monster. How is the next story? Let's review the storyline of this movie. We remind you all what we are going to say. This is a spoiler. For those of you who don't have a problem with spoilers, let's continue the story and enjoy. The movie begins by showing a scene located on a beach. Throughout the movie, we are not told what the name of this beach is and where it is located, but clearly, a group of teenagers is seen partying on the beach. In the middle of the party, a man made a rule that all of them at the party could not hold cell phones at all. So, their cell phones were all collected and put into the trunk of the car. Not long after, there were two men who brought a large lump filled with slime. They said that this strange object was found not far from the beach. Without realizing it, this strange object would bring disaster to them. In the morning, a woman named Kaylee had woken up first. Not long after that, a man named Mitch also woke up from his sleep. Kaylee and Mitch, who are at the lifeguard house, see their friends asleep in the car. Kaylee also saw her boyfriend Jonah, sleeping with Kaylee's friend Chanda. Then a man named Vance and his girlfriend named Ronnie also woke up in the back seat, while a woman named Marcia woke up on a beach chair. On the other hand, Kaylee saw a seabird looking for food, then the bird was suddenly sucked into the beach sand. Marcia tried to get off the chair. At that moment, Kaylee shouted for Marcia not to step on the sand. But unfortunately, Marcia had already stepped on the sand. Marcia's leg suddenly felt heavy and could not be lifted at all. Her friends who saw Marcia in trouble panicked and were confused about what happened. At that moment, Rooney's boyfriend Vance tried to help Marcia. He also jumped from the car and immediately his legs felt heavy to the point that he fell. Vance's face facing the sand began to be gnawed by something to the point that Vance's face was torn and bleeding. Not long after, Vance and Marcia sank into the sand. Seeing his two friends dead, they planned to call the police. But they just realized that their cell phones were all collected and in the trunk of the car. Mitch, the person who made the rules, was blamed. Even worse, they turned out to have secretly entered the beach, which was actually closed because the sea water was polluted. Jonah, who was in the car, tried to start the engine. But it turned out that the car battery was dry and Jonah forgot to replace it before leaving for the beach. As a result, the car could not move at all. Kaylee was also curious about the creature in the sand. She used her hand to lure the creature out. Sure enough, the strange creature was shaped like hair and looked very thin. Long story short, her friend named Gilbert just woke up and was trapped in a trash can. He also tried to get out of the trash can and shook it continuously. His friends immediately shouted and said don't move at all. In the end, Gilbert fell silent after being told there was something in the sand. He was also shocked after finding out that his two friends died because of the beach sand. Whether he wanted to or not, Gilbert had to stay in the trash can. They all just waited in their respective places, hoping that someone would come and find out where they were. Ronnie, who lost her boyfriend, also wrote a letter to her mother if she didn't survive. Without food and without drink, they could only wait for something uncertain. Then they just realized that the people who participated in the party last night were gone and drowned in the sand on the beach. In other words, on this beach, there were only 6 of them left. Not far from them, Kaylee saw the large boulder that was found last night had been split. Ronnie also realized that the large chunk looked like a hatched egg. Therefore, the strange creature under the sand most likely came from that egg. Then Jonah had the plan to take the items in Marcia's bag. Coincidentally, in the back of the car, there were 2 surfboards that Jonah could use to walk. He put the surfboards down one by one to take a step. As he approached the chair, the surfboard Jonah stepped on shifted and got further away. Jonah kept trying to keep his body from touching the sand at all. But the parasites came out of the sand and touched Jonah's stomach. But fortunately, he was still able to survive and jumped onto the chair. Immediately his stomach was injured because it was bitten by parasites. Jonah looked like someone who was poisoned and his face started to turn pale. He said that his stomach felt like it was stung by 1,000 jellyfish. While enduring the pain, he opened the contents of Marcia's bag and found some drinks. In the end, one by one, they were given water to drink by Jonah. When Jonah threw a drink at Mitch, he suddenly felt pain. This shocked Mitch to the point that the wood on the edge of the stairs almost fell off. The wound on Jonah's stomach also looked worse. Jonah, who was in pain, could only lie down on the chair. The five of them were confused about how they could survive in this place. Inevitably, they had to take the cell phone in the trunk of the car. Ronnie planned to open the trunk while stepping on the bumper of the car. When the trunk began to open, suddenly there was a patrol car that honked relentlessly. Immediately Ronnie slipped to the extent that the fingers of his right hand were pinched by the trunk of the car. "This man is a lifeguard in this place." He asked what exactly Kaylee and her friends were doing on the beach that was closed. Then Kaylee told him that there was something under the sand of the beach. The disbelieving lifeguard immediately got out of the car. Strangely, the parasites in the sand could not hurt the man's feet. They also wondered why the man could walk without being hurt at all. Because it was okay, the lifeguard was even more disbelieving in their words. Then Mitch said that the man was not hurt by parasites because of the leather shoes he was wearing. At that moment, the lifeguard told Kaylee and Mitch to come down to him. But the two of them clearly did not want to obey the lifeguard's orders. The furious lifeguard immediately threatened them by using pepper spray. Unexpectedly, the man's car keys fell on the sand. He picked up his car keys, but his hands immediately felt heavy and couldn't move at all. Kaylee told the lifeguard to use pepper spray. At that moment, the man sprayed the parasites that emerged from the sand. Unfortunately, the lifeguard's right hand had to be gone and was bleeding. Not long after, he fell and was sucked into the sand. From that incident, Mitch realized that footwear was very important. He planned to wrap his feet in a towel and run from there. When Chanda threw the towel, Mitch fell due to the loose wooden edge. He lay on the sand and began to be eaten by parasites. Immediately, his feet and hands began to slowly enter the sand. His friends could only watch without knowing what to do. In a state of panic, Kaylee had a brilliant idea. She gave the edge of the wooden ladder to Chanda, who was in the car. Then Kaylee jumped from the lifeguard house to the car. The two of them helped Ronnie to release her pinched fingers. Then Ronnie's 4 fingers were successfully removed and immediately wrapped in a thick towel. On the other hand, Gilbert's pinched half of his body began to hurt and bleed profusely. Then Kaylee and Chanda put the wood so they could cross to Jonah's chair. Chanda slowly crossed while maintaining her balance. Fortunately, she made it to the chair. Then Kaylee, who attacked, also made it to the chair. When it was Ronnie's turn, she slipped and fell on the sand. In an instant, a collection of parasites immediately sucked Ronnie into the sand. Unbeknownst to them, the parasites were trying to get into Gilbert's trash can. Chanda also had the idea to go to the patrol car. She applied the method that Mitch had told her before. When all her legs were wrapped in towels, she immediately ran to the car and managed to climb onto it. But Gilbert was slowly bleeding from his mouth. It turned out that all the parasites made a hole and entered through the bottom of the garbage can. Immediately, Gilbert was sucked into the sand and disappeared. Even more unlucky, Chanda slipped and hit her head until she became unconscious. Inevitably, Kaylee and Jonah could only wait until Chanda regained consciousness. At night, Chanda, who was unconscious, finally woke up. She also found a lifeboat on top of the patrol car. Without thinking, Chanda threw the lifeboat up. Then she climbed onto the lifeboat to pick up Kaylee and Jonah. One by one, they stood on the lifeboat and got into the car. Unfortunately, Jonah, whose condition was getting worse, had to die in the car. Kaylee and Chanda could only wait because they couldn't drive at all. The next day, a man suddenly peered through the windshield and woke them both up. The man also seemed to be able to stand on the sand without being attacked by parasites. In the end, Kaylee and Chanda went down calmly on the sand, while Jonah had to die with a wounded stomach. At the end of the movie, we are shown a collection of parasites swimming and heading to another beach, and the movie ends. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and see you on the next movie recap.